Hello and welcome to the November edition of United Way at Work. I'm your host, Nancy Gordon, Executive Director of United Way of Rutland County. We're in the thick of campaign season, but to remind you of the importance of the campaign, we talk about the funded partner agencies whose work directly benefits from your generosity at this time of the year. One of those is Rutland County Head Start, and with me from Head Start is Kristen Lange, who is the head teacher. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Nancy. Thank you.
I'll try to be extra gentle with you since this is your first time doing something like this. But I understand from Joanne Matson that you're deeply committed to the work and therefore you're a really good person to have.
Absolutely. My passion is definitely on Meadow Street.
Let's talk about Head Start. Let's start with Meadow Street, but that's one of several locations.
Yes, we have our Meadow Street location where we have 5 classrooms. We have another location right down the road from us in Forest Park. There's a full classroom there. We have 2 EEE collaborative classrooms over by Northwest, and then we have another EEE collaborative classroom at Northeast. And what that is, it is a Head Start classroom, but runs closely linked with this county and the cities.
And for those who don't know, EEE stands for
Early education
experiences.
Yes, I can't remember. I've been working with children and teaching for over 10 years. I have been at Head Start for a little over a year, so some of the new acronyms and terminology I'm getting more familiar with.
Mm-hmm. It's a soup. It really is. It's an alphabet soup.
It definitely is. You go from one school and they have all these different abbreviations for one thing, and you go to the next and it's a new language. Mm-hmm. It really is.
So let's talk about who qualifies for Head Start as a program. There's a very specific audience for the work that you do. I mean, a lot of what you do is universal to young children, yes, but some of it's very specific to people in particular situations.
Yes, most of the children and families we serve are below poverty level. The poverty level in Rutland City is higher. I would say it was 16%, and in the county it's 12%. So we do have a lot of families who fall short of that income bracket, and those are the families that we do service. And it's nice because our Head Start is a nationally accredited preschool program, so for us to be able to provide that high quality care for these children who otherwise wouldn't get it, they would either be at home or in a less quality center. So the environment we're able to provide for these families is incredible because we offer such a wraparound service. We have, thanks to United Way, we were given money to be able to take families who did not have a dental home or had not seen a dentist in anywhere from 6 months to a year or more. We were able to take them to the dentist and provide that care for them, and now we have several families who we are able to further their dental care because of this grant. So it's amazing. So on top of the health piece that we do offer, we offer family engagement. We have Rutland Mental Health who works closely with us for developmental needs, behavioral needs, just even if it's just family support. We're able to connect those families with Rutland Mental Health. We have so many things that we do for these children that isn't just an academic skill. We are really teaching humans how to be humans, and that's where we start. We are teaching children to handle their emotions, that it's okay to get angry, mad, and sad, but what do we do with it? And then once we can get children okay with who they are and feeling those emotions and being able to express themselves and ask for help, then we can catch on to the academics. Mm-hmm. So Head Start is that wraparound service. We have everything in the community from health, social, academics, family engagement, community engagement.
And you mentioned the emotional life of young children.
Yes.
That to me is so pivotal regardless of any child's circumstances.
Yes.
Learning to identify and appropriately express one's emotion, it's a big life skill.
Yes.
But especially if a child is growing up in an impoverished, stressed household where there are financial stressors, maybe there's substance abuse, maybe there are issues of the parents being estranged or divorcing or any of these other things that, let's face it, full-grown adults have difficulty processing even if we've been raised in really healthy, solid family situations, and then these things happen in life, and they're very difficult to process. So forget being a preschooler who's got a limited vocabulary and limited life experience, and as you say, these big emotions going on. So I'm really impressed to hear about that part of it, the wraparound services. In our United Way campaign video this year, there's a young mom, Monica, who was sent to talk to us about how Head Start has benefited her and her young son. And she talks about that, being a young, single mother with not a lot of support in the way of family and friends around, which happens a lot in our society. Somebody gets involved maybe with someone in a relationship, they have a child, and that person stays close in order to provide access to the other parent, but doesn't have other supports. One's estranged from that former partner. So that's such a common scenario. And again, it's hard enough to do when there's money coming in. But if somebody's working part-time, I mean, looking at these poverty statistics, we're talking less than minimum wage for a full-time worker, or even minimum wage or slightly above for somebody who's maybe working 30 or 32 hours a week, which often happens, where hours are kept under the 30-hour mark at a particular environment. So what do you see as some of the primary themes, besides this emotional resiliency and expressiveness, that are some of the major themes developmentally for your kiddos?
For our kids, when you're talking about themes, are you talking about triggers that our children? Explain that to me a little bit more.
Sure, yeah. Triggers, but just sort of the kinds of things that all kids go through during these developmental stages.
Well, I like how you talked a little bit about earlier, as adults, it's even hard for us, and we forget that with these kids when they come in. We forget if they've had a rough night or a cold night because they don't have the heating that they need, or if they haven't had a bath in 3 days. We forget as adults how we feel, and then we expect these children to come in and be happy and want to learn and embracing life. But the reality is a lot of them are experiencing trauma through all sorts of forms of abuse, neglect, or just like you said, parents struggling to put food on the table. Outside of the income base, we have children who have also come in who have had disabilities. And because we are so closely related to other services, we are able to find the help for those children. But the biggest thing for us is the income level and the poverty level and the trauma that we're seeing from these children.
From your experience dealing with poverty, for people who haven't had that situation, describe, if you would, what you see in terms of how that does affect the kids.
It's very interesting, and the effect of the children starts with the parents. You have parents who are willing to come in and say, Miss Kristen, honestly, I cannot afford a coat for my child. What am I going to do? I need winter clothes, or we're not going to be able to provide a Thanksgiving meal. What do I do? It takes that parent to be able to ask for help. And when we see the families who the parents are able to ask for help and are comfortable, the children seem to be a little bit more resilient and a little bit more apt to ask for help themselves. And when we have parents who are a little more closed off, who are a little more afraid to open up and show themselves as being vulnerable, you tend to see that in the child too. The child is a little more closed. They're afraid to be vulnerable, or I have to protect myself first, so I might need to interject or have a behavior to protect myself.
Act out because they're really feeling guarded.
It's almost, I have to get you before you get me mindset. And so one wonderful thing about Head Start we have family support service specialists who can get in with the families and who have daily conversations. You have myself and my staff who are involved with the families. And when we can build that relationship, it might take us a year. It might take me from September until April to reach a family. But in April, when they open up to me and say, this is my struggles, this is what I'm dealing with, what can we do, how can Head Start help, it's such a success story. Even if it takes 9 months, when they're finally able to do that, it means a lot.
In terms of the development of children in these ages, and you're working with ages 3 and up primarily.
3, 4, and 5.
3, 4,
yes.
and 5. What are the milestones that you're hoping to help these children achieve in terms of school readiness and social readiness for school?
In a nutshell, for school readiness, we want to send children into kindergarten who are confident in asking for help, who are able to vocalize their needs when they need to be met, who they're comfortable looking at a child and saying, stop it, I don't like it, and who know how to solve their problems. Or even if you don't know how, they might come in with a handful of small tools that we've been able to teach them, and then they're able to build upon. And when they can do that, when they can stick up for themselves, when they have a little bit of self-regulation that they've been able to learn, then that sets them up for an interest in writing and reading and counting and measurements and science and all these wonderful things that we want children to experience. The first most thing we need for those children are to be comfortable in their own skin. And once they are, they can embrace these things. So a lot of the things that we do look for when I send my 5-year-olds off to kindergarten, we are writing our name, we're counting, we like to get past the mean teens as we call them, but they're very tricky. I have had children who've left who can count to 20, but could write you a story, and I have children who have left who can count to 100, but they're just beginning to write their name. But it's that desire, it's that eagerness that we really want to help build in these children. That way when they do leave us, they're willing to accept all the new and wonderful experiences that come their way.
Yeah, and implicit in that eagerness is a certain level of self-confidence,
trust in the people around you,
and trust.
Yes.
Yeah, that I can do this. That this stuff is worth doing. These people want to support me.
And
all of that.
It's okay if it's hard.
And it's okay if it's hard. I can overcome difficulties.
Yes.
Yeah, all of those are such key messages. And how often do we hear about how the fundamentals of one's personality really being established by the age of 5?
Yes, and I'm so glad you mentioned that, because it is, we're getting these children, and it's almost like a fresh cup of Play-Doh. And if you take care of it, it can last forever, and you can create such beautiful things with it. But if we don't take care of it and we let it crack and dry, you're only going to be able to build something beautiful for a short time before it all crumbles and falls apart. So it's so important to embrace these children and meet them where they're at and understand that they do have needs that do need to be met before we can expect them to do X, Y, Z.
To perform.
Perform, great word. Or as we like to call it, your academic skills.
You know, it's interesting, I think about what you're saying, and I think back to my kindergarten report card, which I still have, and some of the comments that the teacher made observing me, and they're still true.
Yes.
Almost 50 years later,
Yes.
those things that she observed about me, both pro and con.
Well, it's the core foundation of your personality, and as you know, the experiences that you get cause that foundation to be built upon, but that foundation still was built when you were 3, 4, and 5.
Now, in terms of the number of students you serve at the various locations, let's review again the locations, and this is a total of about 117 children and their families. All told.
Yes, and we do have the availability to serve more, and we definitely, that's our goal. We have a total of 5 sites. We have one site with 5 classrooms. We have another site with 2 classrooms, and then 2 other sites that only have 1 classroom in each. But you're looking at a total of, well, yeah, the eligibility that we can serve is 335 in the
in terms
county
of people
that
who would
need
qualify
it.
according
Yes,
to the census.
And we're only able to get maybe half that right now with the classrooms that we do have, and that's all of them being full. So we really need more.
Which is why we're here talking about United Way and the campaign, because Head Start is one of those really vital services.
Head Start is changing the future. It truly is. It is. We are that forefront. We are out there with parents, with caregivers, not in front of them, but with them, supporting them and supporting each other to change the future, starting with our 3, 4, and 5-year-olds.
One thing I have observed through the years is the difference between children in different circumstances in that age range. And when the light has gone out of a child's eyes, as it were, when they're only 3 or 4, you see the hardship. And what an unfortunate predictor of future possibilities for that child. When that is an age that is, as you say, supposed to be happy and engaged and curious about everything, asking why, and with imaginative play, and little kids that age are often hams. They really love to entertain, and they're discovering their own power of personality. And then you see these other children, and the light has gone out of their eyes. And it's heartbreaking. And I imagine that's a major motivator for you and your staff to make sure the light doesn't go out of their eyes.
The sad thing is, Nancy, we're seeing more and more children like that who don't have that light, who at 5 years old have been caretakers already for either younger siblings or parents who are struggling with families with addictions, who have literally been taking care of themselves. And yes, it is very sad to see that light go out. But it's one reason I will stay at Head Start forever, because we have the resources to be able to pull together to see what we can do for this child. Not how necessarily we change the child, but how can we change the environment around the child and see the child change on their own within themselves just because we've changed the environment around the child. So it's wonderful. We are getting more and more children like that, but thank goodness we have the support that we have to be able to reach those children and those families. And I wouldn't want to know where they would be if we didn't.
Let's talk about the program itself on a daily basis. What's a day in the life of Head Start like? You operate 4 days a week.
We do. Our Head Start program does only operate 4 days a week. We have 2 of our centers, the Meadow Street Center and the Hickory Street Center, who do operate 5 days a week from 7:30 to 5:30. But with just the Head Start day, the children arrive in the classroom at 9. I am already there. We start group. It's fun. We do a lot of music and movement, acting, exploration. We sit down and have dining room style meals together, which is so nice because so many families eat in front of the TV or on the go for whatever reason in the car. Or some of our families, it's the only meal they're getting. So we sit dining room style. The children are able to serve themselves and to take control of some of their needs, of meeting their needs, of choosing what they eat and how much they eat. When we're done with our meals, we brush teeth, and I brush teeth with the kids also because I'm not going to tell them how important it is to brush their teeth unless I'm going to get down and do it with them. And they love it. They love being able to take control of such simple things that adults do for them. We brush teeth. We're in the classroom until about 11 o'clock, and then we walk into the community. We are able to walk around the community. We are able to walk to some of the local stores and venues. We are out in the park or getting some sort of physical exercise until about 12. We hear the church bells ring and the kids know that's lunchtime, and we head back on up. Again, we embrace a family dining style meal time, and then we lay down for rest. But our Head Start kids leave typically after lunchtime, and then they go home.
Think more about that dining room style meal and all of the things that go with that beyond the physical nutrition, you know, the learning of the manners, yes. Please pass the salt, yes. You know, or pardon my boarding house reach, you know, the kind of things that we learn yes. around a table, learning to converse with each other yes. around a meal, not just inhale the food.
Biggest one. You definitely, and I like that you said that, because it is so true. We are having healthy conversations with these children. And that is a very intimate time for us, because there isn't a lot of distraction. So we have a lot of good, wholesome conversations about things that have been going on, worries that they have, they'll share with us at that time. But it's a great group discussion, because then they're not only sharing that with me, they're sharing it with all their friends around them. And so we're all able to have our input.
It sounds like I'd really like to hang out there someday.
Oh, come on, Nancy. You won't want to leave. It's
seriously, I love kids in that age range.
Yes, they're amazing. They really are.
Yeah. And, you know, I remember having dealt with several generations of kids in that age range, you know, family and friends now. My own godson just turned 6. You know, how much they want to be acknowledged as yes. individuals. Yes. With opinions and ideas, mm-hmm. and that's only going to grow, of course, over the next few years. But even in that age range, they have ideas. They have tastes.
And they need to know they're valued, and they need to know they're encouraged.
Yeah, and making choices for themselves that they want to. I remember when my goddaughter, who's now 33, was about 3, and she had choices. Her mother would present, do you want to have the shoes with the laces or the shoes with the Velcro? It's easier for you to do the Velcro, but you like the color of the shoes with the laces. Mm-hmm. So, you know, pick what are your priorities was basically the message.
Definitely.
You want to have more of a challenge, or do you want to have something work more easily mm-hmm. today? And little things like that.
And that's something that we really strive to build with the children, are their problem-solving skills. Even, of course, problem-solving in conflict, but not necessarily always in conflict. Miss Kristen, why do we have to walk down the hall? Can we be airplanes? Of course we can be airplanes. Nobody said we have to walk. Why not be airplanes? Let's be inside airplanes. So it's those problem-solvings, too. It's how can we take an idea and change it enough to where it's still your idea, but we're able to accommodate for it.
A friend of mine, a coworker from many years ago, said when he was about that age, his father said, you can be anything you want when you grow up. And he said, I want to be a gorilla.
I've heard fire trucks. I've heard a sandwich. I want to grow up and be an adult so I can sneeze. I've heard them all. Yes, it's so wonderful. Their perceptions are on what they want to do, what they want to achieve and accomplish, and their own goals, because they all have them. Whether they realize their goals or not, they do. And even if it is to be a fire truck that day, then that's a goal still worth working towards.
I'd like to support that, yes. You mentioned the dental care, specifically the tooth yes. tutor program, which is part of our community impact health programming yes. Through United Way this year. But I'm also impressed with the level of physical care that you help provide for these children, that there are immunization services, that there's checking of lead levels in the blood, checking hemoglobin.
Hearing, weight. We have somebody come in on a regular basis in every single classroom and measure all the children, their height, their weight, their hearing, their vision. We can do all that right on site. And then we do offer the services to where we can take the children off site to the doctor's offices, to the dental offices. But we do a lot right in the school, which is really nice. That we have those services to be able to offer, because a lot of our families haven't seen a doctor. They don't have a dental home or a primary care physician that they can call or take their children to see. And even if they do have the insurance, the Medicaid or what have you, there's still no guarantee that they have the drive or the motivation, because they're facing their own challenges, their own social anxieties, their own lack of transportation, things like that. So Head Start really we are able to meet these parents where they are at and take them further.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing. I mean, a lot of us, it's easy to assume, oh, well, you get your teeth cleaned twice a year, you get your physical once a year, it's just what people do. Well, it is if you've been raised with that expectation, if that was what happened in your family, maybe it stays on the front burner. Maybe, but under duress, how many of us neglect our sleep, our nutrition, our exercise, even if we had those examples set for us?
And it plays a lot into your self-confidence too. When you have clean teeth and you feel good about your body, you're happier. When your mouth hurts and you don't feel good, or you don't have the energy because you don't have the diet and nutrition that you need, you're not a happy person, you're not comfortable, you don't have the self-confidence you need. And like you said, when we've grown up with that, we forget that it's a completely different lifestyle when that wasn't available. And it's almost, for these families, that service is almost a luxury. It's almost a luxury to go get your teeth cleaned or to be able to go to the eye doctor. And it's sad, but the happy part is that we're here to accommodate and to meet these families.
If somebody is watching the program and knows somebody who's eligible and maybe needs a nudge, what's involved in applying to send a child to Head Start?
You can just keep saying how wonderful Head Start is. And it's amazing because we do have what I called our family support service workers. So when you do make that original call to Head Start, you have almost your own personal little assistant there to sit down with you step by step to help fill these out. Because if I were to give a family a packet full of paperwork and go, please fill this out and bring it back, chances are it's not going to make it out of the car or the bag that it was originally put in. But at Head Start, we are able to sit down and explain things step by step for these families. Some of the educational level of the families we have doesn't even exceed a high school or middle school education. And so we sit down with them in detail. And if a family doesn't want to and they're comfortable taking the information and filling it out on your own, great. And we hear a lot, we see a lot, we are human too, so we're not here to judge a family. We're not here to say what you're doing isn't right, or you're not doing it good enough, or we know a better way. I tell my families all the time, my children don't get Miss Kristen at home, they get Mom, and that's just the reality. We are all human, we do make mistakes. So we're not here to judge their parenting style or how good of a person they are. We are here to help their children get the best experience out of life that they can, and we don't want it to be a daunting task. So any family who is interested can call, and they can come in and we can literally sit down with you until everything is filled out, or you can say, hey, I want a packet to take home with me.
Kristen Lange has been my guest head teacher at Rutland County Head Start. This has been a delight. Thank you so much.
Nancy.
You wouldn't know, you'd never been on TV before. If you would like to support the work of Rutland County Head Start and you have a smartphone, you can take it out right now and dial 41444, text the word Rutland and your name and your donation. You'll have a link to follow through. We'd love to have you make a contribution if you have been touched by this program. Campaign season is in full swing. Or you can stop by our offices in person at 6 Church Street, or send us something via our website, uwrutlandcounty.org. And we'd love to hear from you in one way or another. Give us a call, too, 773-7477. I'm Nancy Gordon. Thanks again to Kristen Lange, my guest this month, for United Way at Work. And thanks to all of our friends at PEG TV for their ongoing support of the United Way of Rutland County. Take care. Talk to you next time.